Episode 7 of Star Trek Lower Decks has been down for us with a brand new adventure within the Star Trek universe. Medical anomalies, cool new ships, and some Black Ops seed planting. Yep, it's a Lower Decks episode. Hello everyone, my name is Captain Jack and welcome to Trek Central. Today we're talking about Star Trek Lower Decks Episode 7, which is called Much Ado About Boimler. It's written by M. Willis and directed by Barry J. Kelly. The episode's plot revolves around the USS Cerritos getting a replacement captain, Jellicoe style, while the bridge officers are off on a Black Ops assignment, with Boimler and Tendi heading to the farm. Before we do jump into today's review and breakdown of episode 7, if you're new around here and want to keep up to date with all things Star Trek, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video. You can also follow us on social media for daily posts from the Star Trek universe. Okay, let's dive into this. So this week we get another cold open that links into the main plot threads, as Tendi makes a dog, but not just any dog, as it's basically the thing in the form of a dog. It looks like a normal dog, but at the same time, Tendi moves away, it breaks its bones and moves around the ceiling of the ship in a very creepy way. It does some other weird things in the episode, like it just becomes a cube. What did Tendi even think a dog was? The senior staff commanding officers form an elite team for a Black Ops meeting for negotiating with an agricultural world in a disputed territory. They may be called upon to do some stealth tactical seeding, only the best missions for the Cerritos crew. Just like how we have substitute teachers, Starfleet has substitute captains, who come in to take command while the traditional captain's away, which actually makes a lot of sense and wasn't just a one-off of Jellicoe in the Next Generation. The Lower Decks' attitude towards these sub-captains is basically one-to-one with our feelings about substitute teachers, though they don't really know what they're doing. However, the sub-captain for the Cerritos turns out to be Mariner's old academy friend, Captain Ramsey, who has brought her commanding officers over from the USS Cerritos, another California-class starship. Ensign Rutherford is making a transporter more efficient, and tests it out on Ensign Boimler. Boim me up. It accidentally sets Boimler off by 1 millirochrane. A cochrane is a measurement of subspace disturbance, so basically Boimler is out of phase with subspace ever so slightly, causing it to become translucent blue and making a rather loud screeching sound, which is the biggest issue. Now, after Rutherford managed to fix the sound emitting from Boimler, but not the actual phasing part, Boimler is sent off to Division 14. Division 14 solves unsolvable medical illnesses, but is referred to as the farm, where Dr. Nana is also sending Tendi's dog. Or whatever it is. Yes, we are seeing a dog being sent to the farm up quadrant. Totally something we would have expected from Lower Decks. Now, Tendi's dog folds its head back and its eyeballs become bats, yet totally a normal thing a dog would do. I don't know where she got this dog from, or whatever breed it was, but it's certainly not a pug. The Cerritos is rendezvousing with the Oslar, which is NX 75300. The design of the ship still invokes a Federation feel, but it sure has something off about it. Might be due to the massive stormy nebula it emerges from, but I am loving the creepy design nonetheless. Ensign Tendi, Boimler and the dog are met by Endosian, who is in the Division 14 Medical Specialist Department. I am so glad we have an Endosian back in Star Trek. Arex was the best in both the animated series and the comics he has been in, but Endosian's back on a small screen is a welcome sight. The farm cures all, the Endosian says menacingly, as he gives an evil cackle as well. He's also wearing a mask, a good reminder for us to all wear our masks when we meet people. Mask up, people. Ensign Mariner and Captain Ramsey catch up in the ready room as Ramsey decides to assign Mariner to be her first officer. Mariner accepts but kinda looks worried, which I guess means we're meant to feel like Mariner's not ready to be a first officer or someone in an important command position, as we have seen before somewhat. Mariner and the bridge officers put on their bog waders and Mariner begins to realise how grown up her friend has become, being now a captain and being all super serious, involved in missions surrounding by Borg and the like. While Mariner has still remained in their academy mindset, pulling pranks on the senior staff, of course she stumbles around. Meanwhile, back on the old Oslar ship, Starfleet medical quarantine with a whole host of Starfleet officers turn to weird creatures. Yeah, kinda weird. Apparently there's a lot of accidents in Starfleet, people are in pike chairs and even a Warp 10 lizard. One of the officers, a man played by a half-reverse aging and normal aging, is in a DS9 uniform, and they're going to commit a mutiny. The Cerritos finds the Rubidex adrift in space, and upon entering they find the crew scared in the cargo bay, exclaiming that the danger is inside the ship and feeds on the ship's power. But before the captain can prevent her officers from activating a warp core, they do and the creature begins to feed on the power again. The strange being on the Rubidox starts rupturing the hull and trying to capture the crew. While they rush to the bridge to try and beam out, the creature breaks the hull and the crew is exposed to the vacuum of space, but luckily Ensign Rutherford's transport is able to get through the interference from a creature and beam everyone back to the safety of the USS Cerritos. Boimler's out of here, am I right? Yeah? No, I'm just going to continue on. The Rubinox turns into a giant space jellyfish, very similar to that from the encounter at Farpoint, the first ever episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Whether this is meant to be identical or similar, it's definitely almost a callback to the episode, and given that series creator Mike McCann is a massive fan of The Next Generation, I would say it's definitely a reference to episode 1 of The Next Generation. Ensign Boimler is forced into an airlock by the freaks and his phasing wears off. When the airlock is opened, expecting to be pushed into space, he lands in the farm, which is actually a nice medical facility to treat medical abnormalities, and as revealed by the Endosian warden, just laughs like an evil genius. Totally offsetting the mood there, man. Also, how many people get affected by Delta radiation in Starfleet? I wonder when Division 14 was created. I guess after the original series, otherwise Pike would be here rather than having to return to Talos 4. Tendi is a heartfelt goodbye of a dog, who turns out he's able to talk, hover, and spit lightning. Tendi doesn't flinch upon seeing this, so her views on dogs are completely out of whack. When she then later sees a dog on a Cerritos, it looks at her and she gets completely weirded out by that. Now this episode has some great development for Mariner, as she said she needs to figure out who she is to be and whether she allows herself to get promoted or stay an ensign for the meantime and be with the lower decks. Just as happens, Commander Ransom's back on board, attempts to say hello to the beautiful Captain Ramsey, and gets thrown into the table. Yep, I have a feeling a lot of people wanted to do that to Will Riker at some point, or Captain Kirk. If only we could see that. Okay, so what do we think of the overall thoughts on episode 7? Well, giving our final thoughts on the episode so far, this was a great episode. I think we definitely found that Division 14 storytelling was more enjoyable than the Mariner Ramsey storyline. With Division 14, we got some real good world building here for what Starfleet does with medical issues they cannot solve easily or by the end of an episode. What happens if you're on a ship without doctors as great as the EMH, McCoy or Crusher, and something goes wrong? No one knows to miraculously turn you from a salamander into a human again, so Starfleet has to send these abnormalities to a place where they can receive medical support and at least not have a bit of comfort. The ship design for the Ostler, presumably named after the famed Canadian physician William Ostler, was amazing. While it still had the iconic Starfleet nacelles, it did have a unique style to it, and seeing an Endosian as the medical specialist of Division 14 was absolutely amazing. Lower Decks has brought so many species from the animated series back into the new animated series, and I am all for it. We also had Boimler and Tendi teaming up for this plot, and even though they didn't do much together, it was a pairing we don't usually see within the show. Usually it's Ensign Rutherford and Ensign Tendi, and Ensign Mariner and Ensign Boimler, so switching up the dynamic really worked rather well, but I'd love to see Mariner and Rutherford work a bit closer together. You'd think if we got Tendi and Boimler for one story, we could get Mariner and Rutherford for the next, but alas, Rutherford was simply content messing with his new transporter, even if it did cause issues. I will say that the Mariner Ramsey storyline grated on me a little at the beginning, because we know Mariner is a competent officer, but during these she forgets and makes mistakes. It was quite out of character to begin with in my opinion, but by the end of the episode it was revealed that she was intentionally doing so to not get offered a place with Captain Ramsey, and instead deal with herself, and it made sense. Though it's still weird how she didn't just reject the offer instead of doing this roundabout way to deal with it, though I guess it's Mariner's style at the end of the day. With the series as a whole, I do think the stories are getting more tightly woven together. Lower Decks is really finding its footing and fast. Plots in a different storyline weave together, such as the transporter being the cause of Boimler's plot and saviour of Mariner's plot. Of course, we've still got a couple more episodes to look forward to, with 8, 9 and 10 just around the corner. Our 23 weeks of Star Trek content is certainly warping along at warp 10, and I cannot wait for the end episode of Lower Decks, and also the new frontier of Star Trek Discovery Season 3. Hopefully next week Q will turn up, as I'm looking forward to seeing John Delancey in Star Trek Lower Decks. If you know what I mean by this, check out our latest episode where we broke down Star Trek Day and the fantastic announcements from it. That of course wraps up our weekly review and breakdown of Star Trek Lower Decks' latest episode. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. We've just covered the Star Trek Discovery Season 3 trailer from Star Trek Day last week, so make sure to tune in and watch that. We'll also be live on YouTube this Sunday at 9 PM BST, so tune in to see us talking about the latest Lower Decks episode and answering your questions. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends.